Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabello with Hard Lens Media, and we are doing a special online interview with a congressional candidate, and this is for the 2020 election cycle for the Illinois 3rd Congressional District. Now, in the past, we interviewed candidate Marie Newman, but there's also another candidate that's running for the seat as well against Dan Lipinski. Sir, for our viewers and subscribers, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running against Dan Lipinski?
Well, Kit, let me first by saying I am Darwish, but I have to open up by telling you what Donald Trump is doing and what Donald Trump is saying is an absolute embarrassment to our country. His recent comments that he made about various congresswomen to go home, go back where they came from, is to me a complete disgrace. Donald Trump is a combination of mud, of manure, and swamp all put together. He's the worst thing that ever happened to his country, and that's why I'm running for Congress. There comes a point where somebody has got to stand up. I mean, we got a congressman right now, Dan Lipinski. If he had this much courage, this much, he would come out, make a video, say something, put out a statement and say he does not stand for this. Right. I mean, how could a congressman who calls himself a Democrat, how do you just let this be? Right. It's actually embarrassing.
All right, so
and it's another reason why I get up this morning. I get up every morning, and in the last 3 months, I say he needs to go. And yes, and the people out there are going to make a choice. Who is the one that is going to stand up to Donald Trump? And that's why I'm running, and that's the case I'm going to make.
So I'm glad you actually asked that, because there's a problem what's happening with the DNC establishment, as well as the fact that right now the DCCC is basically still supporting incumbents. Now, with Dan Lipinski, it's a special case because we're now hearing about them slowly backpedaling away from him. But the DCCC, the DNC establishment, has made it very clear, especially in previous articles and statements in the past, maybe a few months ago, where they said that they are in full support of incumbents nationwide and that their seats shouldn't be challenged. So let's first handle with the DNC and the DCCC. What are your comments on their actions supporting incumbents, and do you think they're really doing enough to really step away from supporting Dan Lipinski? Because let's face it, he's part of the Illinois Democratic machine, not only at the state level, but at the county level, and even here in the city of Chicago, he has connections with the Illinois Democratic machine.
Yeah, and Kit, this is going to surprise you. I don't think there's any problem with having a philosophy, an ideology from the Democratic committee here in the state to say, you know what, we will always support our incumbents. However, I think it's blind to just say that you will do it for every single candidate. There comes a point where you have to evaluate and you have to think and you have to look at who is out there. And someone like Dan Lipinski, he is a clear candidate right now, or I should say a congressman, that just doesn't fit the bill of what Democrats stand for. So I agree with the ideology of saying, hey, we should always try and support our incumbents. However, you have to evaluate. And Dan Lipinski is status quo, and he doesn't operate like a Democrat. He doesn't believe in equal rights. He doesn't support the LGBTQ community. He just doesn't have the values as what Democrats have. He doesn't fit the bill anymore. And that's why I disagree with the Democratic committee. I'm not one of those guys, kid, who's going to come up. By the way, it's old news now. The whole let's go and kill the machine. They're already getting killed every day. Every candidate, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you are slamming Madigan. You're slamming the Democratic machine. I get it. They don't have a good philosophy. And I can't jump into that. I don't want to. I'm going to take my case to the people and make sure that they know who I am and why I should represent the 3rd District.
All right, and now as it stands, though, especially for new Democrats entering into Congress, let's say, for example, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Ilhan Omar, where, they're being even pushed aside by even establishment leaders. There's a potential chance that you could become the new congressional, congressman for the Illinois 3rd Congressional District, and there could be a possibility of the DNC saying, okay, you're brand new, you're not going to be like AOC or anything else. We're going to tell you fall in line with our establishment talking points. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything done. So when the DNC establishment, especially at the national level, tells you to stop, what is your essential comments? What do you plan on doing should that roadblock be presented before you?
Kid, it's a great question. And I have values. And there's values that, to me, will not be compromised. That's the bottom line. That's why I say I'm taking my case to the people. We just started going door to door. We're listening to their stories, and we're listening to what they want to see changed. And when it comes to certain issues such as healthcare, education, and jobs, I'm not going to go away from what the people want. I will not just fit the bill of what they want. However, I am a team player, and I am willing to work with them. And I would like to think, and I know I'm dreaming a little bit here, but I'd like to think that common sense will prevail and that we will have some common grounds we could work with. However, there are areas I will never compromise, especially when it comes to working families, especially when I know in my heart and mind there's certain policies out there that I know it's best for people. And yeah, I'm not going to bend when it comes to that.
All right. So now let's talk about an issue that's right now going to affect the entire country and the world, and that's climate change. And currently we have an administration that's refusing to acknowledge climate change as a threat. Now, recently, Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez presented a bill basically declaring climate change as a national emergency and it needs to be addressed. So, as for your campaign, essentially, what is your stance on dealing with the threat of climate change, and how will you actually, make sure that more people, especially your peers in Congress, will be able to listen and actually be in full support of addressing climate change for the true threat that it is?
Yeah, the idea that this administration ignores climate change, once again, there's really no words except what a joke, what a disgrace. Climate change is real. And my office is in Pilsen, which is a beautiful area. But, I look at the areas around the bridges, the infrastructure, you can tell. It's just corroding. Parts of the 3rd district, bridges, infrastructure, corroding. So we have a real problem. So the question is, how do we solve that? And, I support the Green New Deal. I think we need massive overhaul when it comes to our roads, our buildings, even our classrooms and our schools. Everything needs to be done. I think I'm a little bit concerned with the Green New Deal, which I fully support, I do. But the questions we have to ask ourselves, and when you're running for Congress, you just can't come out here and say, I support something. You can't. You also have to have a plan as to how we are going to pay for it. And right now the plan is, they estimated at $70 trillion. And the estimate is, or the projection is, that the wealthy will pay for it. Wall Street will pay for it. People who make over $1 million will pay for it. And I do support all of that. But again, somebody who's running for Congress, my belief is we have to find out who is really going to pay for it. Is it going to be the wealthy and working class families? Those are the questions when you're running for Congress you have to answer. So yes, I support the Green New Deal. Yes, environmentally, we've got to overhaul our infrastructure here in the 3rd district and across the nation. However, where I am different from some of my opponents, I refuse to be blind. You have to ask that question. Who is going to pay for it? And somebody who's running for Congress, I will never support any type of bill where it is sold as an initiative or a plan that is going to be funded by the wealthy, but yet trickles down to middle-class America. I can't support that because that's being dishonest. That's the biggest problem, Kit, we have with our country right now in politics, is we go out, we pitch these big ideas, and everybody gets excited. But then when it's time to put it into action, that is where Washington, D.C. struggles. They fall short. And let me tell you, it's not a Republican problem. It's not a Democratic problem. It's a Washington problem. And that's why I'm running. We have to keep it real. Let's support these initiatives. Let's take it one step at a time. And the way I see it is this. Number one, we have to identify the areas that need it most. Let's start there. Number two, when it comes to jobs, let's find the underserved areas that need the most work, and let's make sure the people who live in those neighborhoods are the ones getting the jobs. And these jobs, by the way, we need to train them. We need to put them through programs, make sure that they enter what I would call workforce development, certification type programs that deal with environment type of jobs that pay $20 and up. This is all possible. We have to take it step by step. And I think one thing we all have to be careful with is stop just following this, what I call this presidential candidate national narrative. Now, I like Green New Deal. However, that is where we have to start looking at it. My job is to poke holes at it and say, okay, this all sounds good. Who is going to pay for it? And I want to run for Congress to be able to look into that and solve those problems.
Well, one of the concerns, especially what we've covered here on Hardlens Media, is that as it stands, Wall Street, big banks, and major corporations have a lot of pull over both Democratic and Republican leaders, and many of the people who run Wall Street, the big banks, and major corporations and other lobby groups have a lot of power. And there's a clear disparity between those who have all the money and those who do not. And a lot of people, especially Americans, progressives, activists, we're seeing more people saying that the wealthy should be paying their fair share, especially when you have a major corporation like Amazon where they pay zero in taxes, where if you get the average person on the street, if they pulled anything off like that, they'd go to jail for life or something else entirely. So essentially then, where do you really stand on dealing with Wall Street and its influence? Because money in politics is crippling our democracy, and as it stands, the top 1% are getting away with absolute anything that they want, with no matter what administration is in power, because we have legalized bribery.
Well, kid, it's actually it's complicated, but also very simple. Take money out of politics. Get rid of the PACs. Put a cap on how much money a candidate can raise. I think the best way to handle it, well, let's take in the third congressional race right now. We have a situation where Dan Lipinski, he's going to take a ton of money from PACs. And also some of my other opponents, they're going to take a ton of money from PACs. Eliminate it. Forget about, there's no such thing. Let me tell you right now, kids, this whole, corporate PAC versus the good PAC and, they're trying to help people. No, it's all BS. When you take money from the PAC, you become their spokesperson. Take it out. Take it out of the politics 100%. And what we need to do is put a cap. I mean, I don't know what the number would be for a third congressional race here in Illinois, but maybe it's 400,000. And once you put a cap on it, that means it takes the stress away of having to keep fundraising all day. It takes the pressure away from candidates having to go to these, these big donors, going to Wall Street, taking what we call dark money. This is how you handle it. It's so simple. It's not even funny. However, what needs to happen is new candidates like me, I'm ready to take the stand. I'm ready to say, get PACs out of the game. The problem is my opponents, plus candidates from all over the country, they are just infatuated with winning. They're infatuated with winning, and that is what's crushing us. Even the candidates out there that want to do great, that really want to help people. The problem is they want to win. And when you want to win, you'll do whatever means necessary, which means you will take dark money. You want dark money out of the game? Take PACs out of it and put a cap on how much you can spend.
Okay, so then for your campaign specifically, are you accepting PAC money, or are you just running on a grassroots plan?
Kid, it's probably the best question you're going to ask. And I always want to be transparent with everybody I speak with. It's confusing. Right now, everything I have taken has been private money. I don't really know what my stance is on this. It's complicated because I don't like PACs. PACs are the worst thing that ever could happen to politics. But it's like, it's a confusing situation, so I really can't give you what my stance is on this today, because the minute you say you don't take PAC money, then that's it. Your race could be essentially over. So to shoot straight with you, Kit, this is something that's a work in progress. It's something that I have to think more about. We just launched this campaign 6 weeks ago. I will say this, Kit, I'm going to put it right here on your program. I am willing right now, if my opponents I'm pretty sure they watch your program, let's all get together. Let's all make sure that we all agree that we're not going to take PAC money. Let's make sure that we're all on an even playing field. Because here's the deal, as we speak, if we're going to show up to a baseball field, they're going to be showing up with bats. I'm going to be showing up with the tennis racket. I mean, what's that going to do?
Right.
So that's why this is a very, very complicated situation. I want to make sure it's fair to me. I'm a minority candidate. And we want to make sure that if we can have real campaign finance reform, this will allow more people to enter the field to run for office. We keep saying we need real people to run for office. Well, you can't have real people run for office because the first thing that they have to do, and when I about 7-8 months ago, I was thinking about running, that's the first thing I had to deal with. The PACs, the big money. I'm a small business owner. I don't have relationships like that, but I am what you call real people. And it's real complicated when you want to enter this field, because you are going up against people like Dan Lipinski, who this is their bread and butter. They get endorsed by big PACs. They take thousands of dollars. Lipinski's opponents already taking thousands of dollars. So it's complicated, Kit, but I want you to know I'm going to give it to you right here on your show. I will sign a no PAC pledge right now if my opponents will follow suit. Let's do it. We'll do it. Hey, we'll do it on your show. We'll do like a press conference on your show. How about that?
Well, we'll see if that can be done. But, just a short commentary, because we've seen in previous elections, like, for example, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez going up against Joe Crowley, who was basically essentially Nancy Pelosi's successor, or somebody who was very close to the DNC establishment. And, Ocasio-Cortez was able to successfully win not only her primary, but the general election with basically grassroots support. So I think in the long run, then, what I want to ask you, should Citizens United be challenged, or at least there's a call for a convention to get money out of politics? So there's two ways to do it, at the state level and at the federal level. And should something like that be presented towards the United States Senate and Congress, even though, however unlikely that would be, because perhaps the majority of Congress would dismiss such legislation, would you be in full support of getting rid of Citizens United and actually supporting a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics?
Yeah, Kit, I'm telling you, man. I'm ready to sign it right now. I'll do whatever is necessary. I'm running for Congress, and I know we hear that talking point, you're running for everyday people. I'm a small business owner out of Pilsen. I'm so upset at what's happening in Washington, D.C., and I know where it begins. It all begins with dark, dirty money. A lot of times we don't know where it's coming from, and that's why we're having these problems. This is why you can't trust politics. You can't trust politicians, because the minute you take dark money, the minute you take all this money from PACs, you are officially a compromised candidate. And I don't care, again, there's no such thing as a corporate PAC versus there's no good guy, bad guy PAC. It's all just bad. We all got to get away with it. And I promise you, if you do it this way, and if you make it more about people, make it more about the vote, put a cap on it. All these are the type of things that really could, here's a phrase for you, that's what will make America great. Not make America great again, but would really make America great, because then you know the truth of where our politicians really stand on issues. But Kit, if tomorrow you call me, no matter what your issue is, let's say you're with the PAC, you call me and you say, Rush, here's who I am, this is where we stand, and we're ready to give $100,000 if you're able to support this and kind of be the one who supports these talking points from our PAC. And I take the money. Then what? I mean, is that genuine? No, it's a total joke. So yes, I stand for anybody who wants to do it the right way. Take money out. Citizens United, let's fight it. I'll be the first in line to take them out.
All right. So now there's a couple other things we have to deal with, especially that Congress is going to have to deal with as well, and that is the military-industrial complex. As it currently stands, with Democratic and Republican establishment leaders, they have a lot of connections towards the military-industrial complex. And one of the problems is that currently Congress does have the power to essentially stop Trump and his administration, or any other previous administration, from launching more unjustified wars, especially in the Middle East. Right now, there's this increased hostility towards Iran, even though those two oil tankers that were attacked, it calls into question on whether or not they were attacked by Iran. So as a potential congressman in the United States Congress, where do you stand on really stopping this unrelented control of the military-industrial complex and its influence over Washington, D.C.? Are you in support of supporting legislation that, for example, Representative Tulsi Gabbard has written in regards towards ending foreign wars, supporting legislation similar to what Senator Bernie Sanders has done in the past too, ending these ridiculous wars that's happening in the Middle East? Where do you stand on this? Yeah, well, Kit, I'm gonna share this with you. I'm of Middle Eastern descent. I lived in Palestine for 2 years when I was young. So I know this Middle Eastern situation very well. I know the landscape well because I am a Muslim, so there's a sense of connection from living there and understanding the way people think. I don't think the people in the Middle East are bad, but I will say that the government in different parts of Iran and Syria, it's very, very complicated. Historically, the United States continues to take sides. And if you look at the facts, from the relationship with Osama bin Laden that the United States had in the early 80s, yes, it is true, from Saddam Hussein, and the list goes on and on of leaders that America associates with themselves. Historically, what ends up happening, these people America tries to control, and then next thing you know, they end up flipping and turning on the United States. So how do you end this? Well, you need to stop and really cut off relationships with some of these leaders in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, which Iran, of course, is again, Iran and America. We all know that they're enemies. But what I'm saying is we need to just get out. We need to get out of the Middle East. And that's not just, by the way, with Yemen and Saudi Arabia. It's also with the Palestine-Israel conflict. I mean, this is what's hurting right now. America's standing around the world is the relationship
with the United States and these countries in the Middle East. So stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. I mean, think about this, Kit. I mean, you look at 9/11, and if you look at the people that attacked 9/11, they all had Saudi Arabian passports. But yet, what we did is we went to war with Afghanistan, and we kind of just brushed off the whole idea that 10 of the people that attacked us on 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. But yet here we are today selling billions and billions of dollars of weapons to Saudi Arabia, which in turn, they take those weapons and they attack and kill people in Yemen. So I'm telling you, Kit, it's a total mess, total disaster. And the best way to do it is we got to get out. And when it comes to the military, look, it's all about technology now. It's no longer about who has the biggest missiles. It's about technology, and America does very well in that field. And that is where we need to make our strength. The true superpower are the ones that come up with the best apps, come out with the best cars. And that's where we need to stand out and be the best. Let's get out of the military game. And how about this? Boy, remember what I said, Kit, earlier on? It's simple, but it really is. Let's stop spending so much money on weapons, and let's start taking some of that money, and let's put it in the new Green Deal. Let's put it into all these schools in our neighborhoods, especially here in the 3rd District, that need to be fixed. Oh, and how about this? Let's take that money that we spend so much in the military, and let's allocate it to teachers to make sure that they get fair pay. You know, we got too many people right now who don't want to be teachers. And the reason they don't want to be teachers is because they have $100,000 in college debt, and they end up taking a job as a teacher that pays $35,000 a year.
Right.
We have a serious imbalance. And that's why I'm saying we got to get out of the Middle East. I know it all too well. And if I was one of these guys that was all pro-Arab and pro-Middle East, then I would be telling you something different. But as an American, I am very concerned of how we deal with countries in the Middle East. It's wrong. Our approach is wrong, and we need to do things differently.
Okay, so you mentioned at the end, though, about student debt, because that's an issue that's going to affect us later on down the road. Student debt is a form of debt that is unforgivable, is basically unforgivable. So should said student die, whoever co-signed that loan will basically inherit that debt. And there's a majority of Americans that are dealing with ridiculous amounts of student debt, whether it's at a bare minimum $25,000 to ridiculous $250,000 in student debt. So where do you stand on the issue of addressing this crisis? Are you in favor of student loan debt forgiveness? What is your exact plan to really address this? Because there are many Americans who want to enter into the workforce, but yet they have the chain of debt surrounding their neck, while the rest of the international community has figured out a way to give affordable college to their basically to their people.
Yeah, when I decided to run for Congress, and let me just share with you this, Kit, you always look, people have different intentions when they want to run. And for me, the first question I asked myself about a year ago is, where can I help and who can I help? And I always think it needs to start with the people who need it the most. And we got to look at this, who really needs the help? Who has the student debt? And, we need to go in there and see how we can help them. Because there's some people who have what I would call student debt, but they do well for themselves, and there's a good chance they could pay it off. So that's what makes me different from my opponents. I don't believe in just wiping out everybody's college loans. I don't know if that's realistic. I really don't. So if it's possible, if there's a path, I am behind it. So what I need to do, and what the focus needs to be when you decide you want to run for Congress, is start fresh. And for me, it all begins with who needs it most. So right now, we have underserved areas, especially here in the 3rd District, Hispanic areas especially, that we need their residents to go to school. And I don't mean a 4-year college. I mean, they need to enter the workforce development area, where it's more about certifications. It's about learning how to be a welder or be a mechanic or work in aviation or become a truck driver. These are courses that are 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or even 3 months. And the cost of them are $1,500 to $3,000. And to me, that is where the starting point is. And for somebody running for Congress, this is going to be my priority, my top priority, is identify who needs it the most. And while I'm in Washington, this is where you want to create a federal grant program that's going to give these people an opportunity to go to school. My wife, Aziza, she works for a college, and that's where she works. She works in continuing education. And you'd be stunned, Kit, how many people want to work or want to go to school. They don't have the money. And a lot of them don't really, it's not about getting the 4-year degree. They just want to take a certification course, but these courses cost $1,000, $1,500. Now, for some people, they're like, oh, that's not a lot of money. But for a lot of people, that prevents them from going to school. So I believe in almost everything we do, not everything, but in almost everything we do, it always comes to building from the bottom up.
Right.
And I'm running for Congress because your first step should always be who needs it the most.
Right.
So my job from day one, and look, we will work our way up. I mean, I know, again, there's big progressive talk. I get it. And I love the vision and I love the fire. But again, I'm running and you got to take it step by step. Who needs it the most? Underserved areas, a lot of them are minorities, and we got to make sure that we create a pathway for them to go to school where we can take care of those type of payments, $1,500, $2,000. Let's get them trained. And let's also make sure we have an infrastructure where not only do we pay for their education, but we also have a jobs program where the government does help them and place them in jobs, where we build a partnership that I would call the Economic Development Council, the 3rd District. And this is a council that'll make sure that we put people into jobs, and either in jobs that are just in manufacturing. This is something I have a really strong desire and I'm really passionate about, is we got to find out the people who can work in the skilled areas of manufacturing and what we call labor, but there's also people that want to enter the technology field.
Right.
We got to find out who these people are, and we got to make sure that we get them in these type of jobs.
Okay. So now I think final question for our viewers and subscribers, if they want to learn more about your campaign, find out more about the issues that you're fighting for, where can we learn more about you online via social media?
Yeah, I mean, at Rush for Congress with the number 4 is where you can find me on the social media outlets. My website is www.rush, again with the number 4, rushforcongress.com. There's also a contact link there. I am ready to talk to you. And for anybody that's listening and that's watching your show, Kit, I am here for you. I'm a new candidate that wants to talk to you. I know a lot of people have questions. And what I'm most proud of is that you can see that more people are getting involved in our democratic system, whether you're running for office, which I think is awesome. Every single person should run. If you believe in running, you should. But also I notice more people are coming into the voting process. And my job is to go door to door and make sure that everybody votes. And naturally, Kit, I want them to vote for me.
All right. Well, that's a note to end it on. This is Kit with Hard Lens Media. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Peace. Let's all do what we can to build a better future. Hey, everyone. Did you like that video? Well, guess what? You can hit the subscribe button, hit that ring bell notification, so that way you're updated when we upload new content to our YouTube channel.